Ladies and gentlemen, in a society that often equates self-worth with productivity and people-pleasing, choosing to focus on ourselves can feel radical, almost like an act of rebellion. Many of us have been raised to believe that putting our own needs first is selfish, or that it's somehow neglectful toward others. But let me tell you, giving yourself permission to prioritize you is one of the most powerful and compassionate choices you can make. Imagine what it would look like if you started treating yourself as the most important person in your life. Think of it as giving yourself the same kind of care, patience, and encouragement you freely give to loved ones. By doing this, you're building a foundation of self-worth that affects every part of your life. You're saying to yourself, I matter, my well-being matters, and my happiness matters. This doesn't mean that other people don't matter. It means you understand that when you're whole, when you're taken care of, you're able to show up in even better ways for others. Let's talk about guilt, because that's what holds many of us back. The guilt that arises when we think, I should be doing more for others, or what will they think if I say no? The truth is, this guilt stems from a belief system that places our value in what we give, rather than in who we are. It tells us that our worth is dependent on how much we can offer, how much we can sacrifice. But here's the truth: self-worth doesn't come from what you give to others. It comes from valuing yourself and knowing that you are enough just as you are. The act of prioritizing yourself starts with giving yourself permission to let go of that guilt. You have to be willing to challenge the belief that you're somehow not enough unless you're meeting everyone's needs. When you understand that self-care isn't selfish, but rather essential to your well-being, you begin to embrace your right to take up space, to be seen, and to value yourself. To prioritize yourself, you need to first acknowledge that your needs are valid. So often, we're taught to ignore our own desires, to push down our needs, and to focus on what others need from us. We believe that we should be able to handle everything, to power through. But prioritizing yourself means listening to those subtle signals your body and mind send you. Signals telling you when you need rest, when you need to be heard, and when you need something for yourself. Consider what happens when you ignore your needs for too long. Fatigue, resentment, burnout, these are all symptoms of self-neglect. By giving yourself permission to take care of your own needs, Ladies and gentlemen, we often feel that prioritizing ourselves is somehow selfish, indulgent, or even wrong. But here's the truth: giving ourselves permission to put our needs first is one of the most important and courageous things we can do. Imagine, just for a moment, treating yourself with the same care, respect, and attention you would give to someone you love deeply, a friend, a partner, or a child. When you do this, you're sending a powerful message to yourself that you matter, that your well-being is worth protecting, and that your dreams, needs, and happiness deserve a place in your life. Think about how much of our energy we pour into the expectations others place on us. We hustle to meet deadlines, we put on brave faces for our families, and we push through our own fatigue to make others comfortable. But what if we took just a fraction of that energy and redirected it inward? Prioritizing yourself doesn't mean you're disregarding others. In fact, it often means you're more fully present for them because you're not constantly running on empty. You're honoring the balance between giving to others and nurturing yourself. You're filling your own cup first so that when you pour into others, it comes from a place of wholeness rather than depletion. It's common to feel guilty when we focus on ourselves, as if we're letting someone down or falling short of our responsibilities. But guilt often arises from the belief that we're somehow unworthy of our own attention. Challenge that belief. Remind yourself that self-care and self-prioritization are not privileges, they are rights. You don't have to earn the right to care for yourself, it's yours simply because you exist. Each time you make the conscious decision to prioritize yourself, you're reinforcing your own sense of worth. You're showing yourself that your needs are valid, your well-being is valuable, and that you have every right to show up for yourself. Giving yourself permission to prioritize you is a profound act of self-compassion. It's a way of saying, I matter and I'm worthy of my own time and energy. This mindset shift won't happen overnight. And that's okay. You may need to practice telling yourself daily that it's okay to focus on you. And with time, you'll find that prioritizing yourself doesn't close you off to others, it actually deepens your connection with them. When you feel cared for and whole, you're able to show up more authentically, love more freely, and lead with a heart that's at peace. So start today. Give yourself permission, not just once, but each and every day. Let this be a reminder that choosing yourself isn't a one-time act, it's a journey of consistent, intentional self-love. Each time you prioritize yourself, you're not just improving your own life, you're inspiring those around you to recognize the importance of self-care. And in doing so, you're helping to create a world that values individuals not just for what they can do for others, but for who they are, whole and fulfilled. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about boundaries, a word that can feel intimidating but holds the key to living a balanced, fulfilling life. Setting boundaries is one of the most powerful acts of self-care, a way to protect our energy, honor our values, and show up authentically. Many of us have been taught that saying no or setting limits is selfish, that it pushes people away. But in truth, boundaries are not walls meant to keep others out. They are guidelines that protect our well-being and allow us to show up more fully in our relationships and commitments. When you set a boundary, you are honoring your own needs and limits. You're saying to yourself and others, this is what I can give, and this is what I need to maintain my own peace. Boundaries create a clear line between where you end and where others begin, allowing you to maintain a sense of self in a world that constantly pulls us in different directions. By protecting your energy, you're able to reserve your time and efforts for the things and people that genuinely matter to you. Boundaries are essential because they give us permission to prioritize what truly feeds our souls and nurtures our growth. Without boundaries, we can easily become overwhelmed, drained, or even resentful, giving so much of ourselves that there's little left for our own well-being. But setting boundaries requires courage. It often means having difficult conversations, saying no when we feel pressured to say yes, and sometimes walking away from situations that no longer serve us. It's not always easy, but it's necessary. One of the biggest challenges with boundaries is the fear of disappointing others. We worry that by setting limits, we'll let people down or seem less caring. But consider this: when you overextend yourself to meet others' expectations, you're not only sacrificing your own energy, but also showing up in ways that may not be genuine. You end up giving from a place of obligation rather than true desire. Over time, this can lead to resentment, burnout, and a sense of being disconnected from yourself. Setting boundaries allows you to give to others from a place of abundance, not exhaustion. Boundaries also invite people to know and respect the real you. When you are clear about what you need and are willing to communicate that openly, you create healthier, more authentic connections. People learn what's important to you, and the right people, those who genuinely respect you, will honor your limits. They'll understand that boundaries are not about rejection, they're about respect. And for those who struggle with your boundaries, it's often a sign that they may not be willing to honor the true you. Boundaries act as a filter, creating space for the relationships that uplift you and gently releasing those that drain you. Another key to boundary setting is self-compassion. Sometimes we'll set a boundary and still feel guilty about it. We may second-guess ourselves, wondering if we're being too harsh or too closed off. In these moments, it's essential to remind ourselves why we set the boundary in the first place. Boundaries aren't about being unkind, they're about protecting the core of who we are. They are the lines we draw to ensure that we can live our lives in ways that feel true and sustainable. Give yourself grace in this process. Know that it's okay to feel uncomfortable, it's part of the growth. But also know that this discomfort is temporary, and the peace and clarity that boundaries bring are well worth it. When you start setting boundaries, you'll notice a shift in your energy. You'll feel lighter, more empowered, and more in tune with your own needs. You'll start to value your time and energy as precious resources, and this self-respect will ripple into every area of your life. You may find that you have more time for the things that bring you joy, more energy for the people who truly matter, and a greater sense of control over your own well-being. Boundaries allow you to reclaim your life one choice at a time. And here's something truly beautiful: when you model healthy boundaries, you empower others to do the same. You become a living example of what it looks like to honor oneself without apology. Your boundaries become an invitation for others to respect themselves, to recognize their own limits, and to prioritize their peace. In this way, boundary setting isn't just an act of self-care, it's an act of leadership. It shows others that it's okay to value themselves, that they don't have to deplete themselves to be worthy or loved. So remember that boundaries are not just a protective measure, they are an affirmation of who you are. They allow you to step fully into your own life, to create space for what matters, and to live in a way that is both authentic and sustainable. And Ladies and gentlemen, let's delve into the idea of embracing our imperfections as strengths, a notion that can feel foreign in a world that constantly nudges us to improve, polish, and perfect every part of ourselves. We grow up absorbing messages that we need to hide our flaws, that they make us less worthy, and that only when we are perfect will we be enough. But the truth is, it's our imperfections that give us depth, humanity, and connection. They are not things to be fixed or hidden, they are parts of us that, when embraced, can become our greatest strengths. Think about what it would feel like to stop hiding or apologizing for your imperfections. Imagine stepping into each day fully accepting those parts of yourself that feel a bit messy or rough around the edges. This doesn't mean giving up on growth or change, it simply means seeing these flaws as unique aspects of who you are rather than things to be ashamed of. When we embrace our imperfections, we are giving ourselves permission to be human. We're acknowledging that, like everyone else, we are beautifully and naturally incomplete, and that's okay. Embracing your imperfections allows you to live with more authenticity. When you let go of the need to appear flawless, you're able to show up in your relationships, your work, and your life as your true self. You're no longer exhausting yourself trying to keep up a perfect facade. Instead, you're freeing yourself to be genuine, real, and vulnerable. And when you're real, you're able to connect more deeply with others. People are drawn to authenticity. It reminds them that they, too, don't have to be perfect to be loved and accepted. By embracing your imperfections, you create space for others to do the same, fostering connections that are based on truth and acceptance rather than perfection. Our imperfections also carry valuable lessons. They remind us that there's always more to learn, more room to grow. If we were perfect, there would be no journey, no curiosity, no humility. Each imperfection teaches us something: patience, resilience, or humility. Perhaps your imperfections have taught you compassion, because you know what it feels like to struggle. Or maybe they've shown you the importance of courage as you learn to face and accept parts of yourself that you once tried to hide. These are lessons that shape who you are and make you wiser, kinder, and more empathetic. When you see your imperfections as strengths, you also become more resilient. Instead of feeling defeated when things don't go perfectly, you start to see challenges as opportunities to grow. You understand that missteps and flaws are not setbacks, they are stepping stones. You realize that each time you embrace an imperfection, you're building inner strength. You're becoming someone who is able to face life with grace, because you know that your worth doesn't depend on getting everything right. Resilience isn't about being unbreakable, it's about finding beauty in the broken pieces and knowing that they, too, are part of who you are. And here's something profoundly empowering: embracing your imperfections allows you to live more freely. You stop spending so much time and energy trying to mold yourself into someone you're not. You let go of the weight of constant self-criticism, and you start to live with a sense of lightness, knowing that you're already enough, flaws and all. This freedom gives you the courage to take risks, to pursue things that excite you, and to step out of your comfort zone. When you're no longer afraid of failing or looking imperfect, you open yourself up to possibilities you might have shied away from before. Embracing your imperfections is not about settling or giving up, it's about shifting your perspective. Instead of seeing your flaws as limitations, you start to see them as unique qualities that make you who you are. Think of all the most inspiring people in your life. Chances are, it's not their perfection that draws you to them. It's their realness, their courage to be themselves, their willingness to show up as they are. When you accept your imperfections, you too become that person for someone else. You become someone who inspires by simply being true to themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember that embracing your imperfections is a journey. It takes time, compassion, and patience. There will be days when it feels easy and days when it feels hard. But with each step, you are reclaiming parts of yourself that you may have thought were unworthy. You are building a foundation of self-acceptance that allows you to stand tall, knowing that you are already complete. When you embrace your imperfections, you're not just changing how you see yourself, you're changing how you move through the world with more grace, more strength, and more freedom. Let's explore what it means to be present and aware of our needs, an often overlooked but essential part of self-care. In the hustle and distractions of everyday life, we can lose sight of what we truly need to feel balanced, fulfilled, and healthy. We become so focused on meeting external demands and taking care of others that we can disconnect from our own needs, treating them as secondary or even irrelevant. But the truth is, to live fully, authentically, and with purpose, we need to stay in tune with ourselves moment by moment and honor our needs without apology. Being present with yourself means grounding yourself in the here and now, tuning out the noise around you, and giving your full attention to how you feel and what you need. This presence allows you to be more in touch with your emotions, your physical state, and your mental well-being. It's about pausing long enough to ask yourself, how am I feeling right now, or what do I need in this moment? These questions, simple as they may seem, help us reconnect with our inner selves, inviting us to check in with our body, mind, and soul. When we're truly present, we can sense when we're tired, anxious, or overwhelmed before these feelings grow into something unmanageable. We start to notice the subtle signals our bodies send, perhaps a tension in our shoulders, a quickening of our breath, or a pang of hunger. These signals are messages guiding us toward what we need to restore balance. By honoring these messages, we are affirming that our needs matter. We're reminding ourselves that taking a moment to breathe, to rest, or to recharge is not a luxury, it's essential. Many of us have learned to ignore or suppress our needs, thinking that attending to them is selfish or unnecessary. But being aware of our needs is an act of self-respect. It's a way of showing ourselves that we're worth the time and attention, that we don't have to run on empty to be valuable. When we're present with ourselves, we recognize that meeting our needs doesn't take away from what we can give to others. In fact, it enhances it. When we're well, we're more resilient, more compassionate, and more capable of showing up for the people and responsibilities in our lives. Awareness of our needs also allows us to make choices that are aligned with our values and our well-being. When we're disconnected from ourselves, we may say yes to things that drain us or neglect opportunities that could fulfill us. But when we're tuned in, we become more intentional. We start to understand what truly matters to us, and we feel empowered to make choices that reflect those priorities. We learn to protect our energy, to spend time in ways that nourish us, and to pursue goals that align with our true desires rather than external pressures. Being present also invites us to accept ourselves with compassion. We realize that our needs don't make us weak, they make us human. They remind us that we are worthy of care and attention, just like anyone else. Sometimes the hardest part of being aware of our needs is allowing ourselves to accept them without judgment. We may feel guilty for needing rest or feel like we should push through discomfort to be productive. But awareness teaches us that self-care isn't about indulgence, it's about sustainability. It's about recognizing that we deserve to feel whole, grounded, and at peace. Being present and aware of our needs takes practice, patience, and honesty. It requires us to slow down, even in a world that constantly urges us to speed up. It asks us to let go of distractions, to be still, and to listen to the quiet truths within us. It may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if we're used to ignoring our own needs, but with time, it becomes a natural and nourishing part of our routine. This presence becomes a gift that we give to ourselves, a way of living that brings us closer to who we are and what we value most. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us be present. Let us honor our needs, not as inconveniences, but as essential parts of who we are. Let us remember that by staying in tune with ourselves, we are nurturing the foundation of our well-being, our resilience, and our joy. Being present and aware of our needs allows us to live more fully, to give more freely, and to experience life with a sense of purpose and inner peace. In this presence, we find not only self-respect, but also the freedom to be true to ourselves and to live in a way that is deeply fulfilling. There's something undeniably powerful about pursuing what lights you up. It's that feeling of excitement, that inner spark that makes you feel truly alive and connected to something greater than yourself. Yet, in the routines of daily life, it's easy to lose sight of what genuinely excites us. We often prioritize practicality, security, and obligations over our passions, and over time, the things that once lit us up can fade into the background. But here's the truth: pursuing what lights you up isn't just about finding joy, it's about living in alignment with who you truly are and making choices that fill your life with purpose and meaning. Imagine what it would feel like to dedicate time, energy, and attention to the things that make you feel alive, the things that ignite that spark within. Think of the projects, interests, or goals that you naturally gravitate toward, the ones that make hours pass in what feels like moments. When you pursue what lights you up, you are tuning into the essence of who you are. You're saying to yourself, this matters to me, and I deserve to make space for it in my life. By following that inner pull, you're honoring the unique strengths, talents, and dreams that only you can bring to the world. There's a deep sense of fulfillment that comes from investing in what we love. It's different from the satisfaction of checking tasks off a list or reaching a goal just for the sake of accomplishment. When we pursue what lights us up, we're not just achieving something, we're expressing ourselves, we're creating meaning, and we're finding a sense of purpose. This kind of fulfillment brings a sense of vitality and motivation that can't be manufactured. It doesn't depend on external rewards or approval from others, it comes from knowing that you're doing something that resonates with your soul. Following what lights you up also inspires courage. Often our passions don't always fit neatly into the boxes that society has set for us. We may fear that pursuing them will lead to judgment, failure, or disappointment. But when you decide to go after what excites you, you're choosing to trust yourself over external expectations. You're acknowledging that your desires and dreams are worth the risk, that they're worth any setbacks or obstacles you may face along the way. And that courage, the courage to honor your passions, spills over into other areas of your life. You become more resilient, more willing to take on challenges, and more open to possibilities that might have once seemed out of reach. Pursuing what lights you up also has a ripple effect. When you're genuinely passionate and engaged, it shows. People can feel the energy you bring to what you do, and it often inspires them to connect with their own passions. You become a source of inspiration, reminding those around you that it's possible to live a life fueled by joy, curiosity, and excitement. Your pursuit of what lights you up serves as a quiet but powerful invitation for others to do the same. By living in alignment with your own desires, you're helping create a world where authenticity and passion are celebrated. But pursuing what lights you up doesn't mean you have to make drastic changes or transform your entire life overnight. It can start with small steps, a few minutes each day dedicated to a hobby you love, a commitment to learn something new, or even just setting aside time to reconnect with what excites you. Sometimes those little moments of joy are all it takes to reignite the spark within us. The key is to prioritize these moments, to protect them, and to let them grow. Over time, these small acts of honoring your passions can lead to a life that feels richer, more vibrant, and more meaningful. When you pursue what lights you up, you're also choosing to nurture your own well-being. The things that excite us often provide a sense of relaxation, joy, and renewal that other activities simply can't. They're like fuel for the soul, helping us to recharge and reconnect with ourselves. By making time for what we love, we're taking care of our mental and emotional health. We're giving ourselves permission to enjoy life, to find pleasure in the journey, and to remember that life isn't just about obligations or responsibilities, it's about finding moments of light and allowing ourselves to savor them. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't be afraid to pursue what lights you up. It may not always make sense to others, and it may not fit into a perfect plan, but it will lead you to a life that feels more authentic, more joyful, and more aligned with who you truly are. Trust that inner spark, let it guide you, and allow yourself to explore the things that bring you alive. In doing so, you'll not only create a life filled with purpose and passion, but you'll also inspire others to find their own light. Remember, you are worthy of a life that lights you up, and it's never too late to start pursuing what truly makes your heart sing. Let's embrace the power of celebrating every step forward, no matter how small. In a culture that often values big achievements and grand milestones, it's easy to overlook the smaller steps we take each day. But each one of those small steps is a meaningful part of the journey, a testament to your resilience, courage, and commitment to growth. Celebrating each step forward is a way of recognizing that progress isn't always flashy or immediate. It's a gradual process made up of tiny choices and actions that lead us closer to our goals. When you take time to honor each small step, you're reminding yourself that growth isn't linear. It's not a race, and there's no need to rush. Each step, no matter how small, is a win in its own right, deserving of your acknowledgement. Progress might be as simple as getting out of bed on a difficult day, making a phone call you've been putting off, or spending 5 minutes on a task that feels challenging. These moments may seem insignificant on the surface, but each one represents an effort to move forward, to make a choice in favor of your goals and well-being. Celebrating small steps also cultivates a positive mindset. When you recognize and appreciate even the tiniest progress, you're training yourself to see the good, to find value in the effort, and to appreciate the journey. Instead of focusing on how far you still have to go, you're choosing to focus on what you've already accomplished. This shift in perspective builds momentum, making it easier to continue moving forward. You start to feel encouraged and motivated because you're no longer waiting for some distant future reward. You're finding joy and pride in the here and now. Each small step is also a moment of self-affirmation. It's a chance to say to yourself, I'm doing this, and I'm proud of myself. This kind of self-validation is crucial for building confidence and self-worth. When you celebrate your efforts, you're telling yourself that your hard work matters, that you're capable, and that you're worthy of recognition. Instead of waiting for others to validate your progress, you're choosing to be your own cheerleader. Over time, this builds a solid foundation of self-belief, reinforcing that you don't need to wait for external praise to feel good about what you've achieved. Sometimes small steps are all we can manage, and that's okay. Life is full of challenges, setbacks, and unexpected turns, and there will be days when even the smallest step feels monumental. On those days, celebrating your effort is especially important. It's a reminder that progress doesn't have to look a certain way or meet a specific standard to be valuable. It's a recognition that every step, no matter how small, is a victory over doubt, fear, or adversity. By acknowledging these moments, you're honoring your strength and resilience in a world that often encourages perfectionism and constant achievement. Celebrating small steps also reinforces patience and commitment. Many of the goals we set for ourselves, whether they're related to personal growth, health, career, or relationships, take time to achieve. By focusing on the small steps, you're acknowledging that success isn't always instant. You're choosing to value the process, to trust that each tiny action is adding up to something meaningful. This mindset of patience helps prevent burnout, as you're no longer pressuring yourself to reach the finish line immediately. Instead, you're giving yourself the grace to move at your own pace, understanding that each small step is a necessary part of reaching your destination. When you celebrate each step forward, you're also creating a habit of gratitude. You're shifting your focus from what you lack to what you already have, from what you haven't achieved to what you're actively building. This sense of gratitude can have a profound effect on your mental and emotional well-being. It helps you find fulfillment and contentment in the present moment, rather than constantly chasing future milestones. You start to see your journey not as a series of challenges to be conquered, but as a series of opportunities to grow, learn, and appreciate every moment along the way. And let's not forget that celebrating small steps makes the journey more joyful. Life can be serious and demanding, and if we only celebrate the big moments, we miss out on countless opportunities to experience happiness and pride. By celebrating each step forward, you're inviting more joy, more lightness, and more positivity into your life. You're giving yourself permission to enjoy the ride, to savor each bit of progress, and to feel good about the effort you're putting in. You're acknowledging that the journey itself is just as important as the destination, and that there's beauty to be found in every phase of your growth. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's celebrate each small step forward. Let's recognize that progress doesn't have to be huge to be significant, and that each step we take is a reflection of our strength, dedication, and courage. Each tiny step brings us closer to who we want to be, to the goals we want to achieve, and to the life we want to live. By celebrating our small steps, we're honoring the journey, building confidence, and choosing to live with gratitude and joy. Remember, you don't have to wait for a big win to celebrate. You can start right here, right now, with the small victories that make up the fabric of your life.
Thank you.